Daily Dose of Nature. I'm your host, Sunny Vanderstar. Today's topic is Wild Baja, Conservation through Ecotourism. And it will be presented by our fabulous NatHab Expedition Leader, Daniela Muñiz Nieto. Daniela, thank you so much for being here today and for taking us with you to Baja. Let's go ahead and dive in.
Hi everybody. Thank you for connecting. Thank you, Sonny, for introducing me. So I'm Dani Muñiz, well, Daniela Muñiz Nieto, but everybody calls me as Dani Muñiz. So maybe some of you already know me. So we're going to talk about Wild Baja and how all the process of the whole peninsula, Baja California Sur, started as an exploring destination and then started changing into tourism and then ecotourism, and how this has been changing habitants, the people's life. Okay, so I have turned on my camera, but apparently it's not working very well, so I apologize. But I have some slides for you. Not many, but I would like to go explain through them and write down your questions. And thank you again for joining us. So I'm going to start. So this first picture is from our campsite at Kujima. So this will end up a little bit also with our camp in the gray whales. But so to start, I'm gonna get you in context. Just let me, okay. So everything, just to put you in context. Why or who started coming to Baja? Well, long time ago, I just want you to put in context that Baja has been habitated like there's like human evidence activity like from the 11,000 years from now. Isla Espiritu Santo, which is very close to La Paz, where am I now, was very well known for having pericus, which were the native people that lived here long time ago. And they were known as very good and skilled fishermen. And there were also the Guaycuras in the middle of the peninsula and Cochimis group in the north of the peninsula. But how all this started? So there was myth of the Calafia Queen. That myth started all the adventure. Why? Because Hernán Cortés, which was a Spanish explorer, expeditioner, came to Mexico. And when he arrived to middle center of Mexico, he heard about this legend. And it was a legend about an island, a magic island full of fierce and beautiful women that were led by Calafia queens. The Calafia queen, Calafia, gave its name originally to the peninsula. And when they started coming after several expeditions, they realized it was not actually an island. It was true that there was a lot of pearls and treasures and beautiful women decorated with all these pearls were the native people that used the pearls are personal decorations. They will like tangle them in their hair. So all these descriptions were true. The thing that was not true, and as long as they started expeditions, that it was a peninsula, not an island. But it's such a far land that an hostile with a very hostile desert and very hard weather and very isolated from everyone, that feels very remote. And you can actually still feel that today in people's way of living in the whole peninsula. So that's how it started, and all these characteristics of the place made it like a little bit magical and very attractive for explorers. And this comes through our days. So this is just two pictures about what used to be. Let me show you with my with my mouse. It was called, this is a very old map called El Mar Bermejo de las Californias, which means the Red Sea of California. And this is very interesting because also the next painting in the right side is one of the first descriptions from the missioners that came here. They were Jesuits, and they described the people living here. And these are some of the only paintings we have as evidence of who lived here when the conquerors and missioners arrived first. And Mar Bermejo means the like the Red Sea, like yeah, like kind of a reddish sea. And this is very famous because that's how it looks at the sunsets. It reflects the beautiful and like fire color of the sunsets in this area. So I'm just gonna keep going. So, well, that's the back of the context, just to let you know, so that for so long, since the 16th century when this happened, it's been like such a remote area that everyone kind of wants to see what it's here that makes it so special, you know? So for all you that you don't know, or maybe you're not, just for an explanation, Baja California Sur, it's part of the peninsula. This is where we live. Baja is made, it's two states. So it's Baja California, and what you see here in the middle of the, oh, I just want to put this down, so I don't know, okay. So Baja California Sur, it's the middle of the peninsula. So where you see this is the start on red, it's the middle of the peninsula. And you can see on the left side, on the Pacific side, in the very top, you see one very white lagoon, is Guerrero Negro Lagoon. This is San Ignacio Lagoon that we're gonna be talking about in a while. And then if you go to the south, you'll see that this is Magdalena Bay, and this is where all our gray whales come. On this area, in the very south, you will see La Sierra de la Laguna, which makes it very special also. And then there's other sierras along the peninsula. Also, just for you to know how hard is life in the peninsula for our living is, we are the lowest dense state in the whole country, with a lot of territory, but not over 1 million of people yet in the whole state. So this makes very, very low dense population. So in the last census, we were not even 800,000 people. So we're still 2,100 to go to reach the million. Okay, so just imagine that. Because the lack of water, the heat, and there's a lot of land that we cannot like make for agriculture. So it's very hard to live in here, but also it makes it very wonderful, and makes it have this beautiful, beautiful opportunity of visiting pristine lands, which preserves the peninsula so intact. And in the other hand, also as a reference, 68% of people living now in Baja live from tourism. So 68% of the income total of the state is from tourism or services activities that come from tourism. So, oh, I just need to go back. Okay. Okay. So tourism and conservation in Baja California Sur. So if you have visited Baja before, you will see that a lot of this abbreviation, BCS. BCS means Baja California South. So it's the half of the peninsula, as I told you before. This is a very new state. In the 79, no, in 75, we just turned into a state. So it's the newest state in Mexico. So we are a baby state, and before that was no more than just a territory. So This is what we have in the picture is Loreto. Maybe you have been here, you have visited us, and if you plan to come to a trip to the Baja Great Whales, this is the town where you will arrive first. And I just put that hummingbird because I love bird watching, and I always think about birds as conservation monitors. But well, so how tourism and conservation work together in this state? So first of all, we have to tell what is now like a very trendy thing and a word that we're using, that it's ecotourism. But what really means ecotourism? It's not that it's just a green label, it has to be meaningful and deeply related to conservation. So ecotourism means has to cover at least three main things. So normally it happens in natural areas, like the ocean, like in the mountains. It can be national parks or lagoons or oases or whatever is nature around. Normally it is one of the main characteristics of ecotourism. Also has to be sustainable. And what does it mean? Is that it produces resources that come back to keep doing the activity, but as you're preserving like the natural resources, you are not interfering with the process of nature. You are still reusing the same lagoon, the same hiking trail, but you're not destroying anything, so in order you can enjoy it again and again and again. And part of the sustainability definition, it means that economic income has to go straight to community. That means that it has to be fair for everyone. So this is part of how ecotourism works and how it leads to conservation. It's the main goal of ecotourism. If it doesn't cover at least these whole three things, so it's not ecotourism. It's just a green label for marketing. Okay. So in this picture, I show you part of the Sierra and one of the oases in Baja. This is very important because Sierras in Baja are one of the first things that started ecotourism. So as you already know, I told you we are in a very big extended land of desert, but also we have the fortune that we have these sierras along the peninsula. And what does it mean? That in some places we have a very high altitude with different temperatures just next to the ocean. And this leads to a lot of humidity and accumulation of water. And this makes natural oasis in the middle of the desert, which makes it so magical. And in some spots, like in the Sierra de la Laguna, that it's in between Cabo and La Paz, which is in the very south tip of Baja, gives us an exceptional area of endemic animals that have been isolated in this ecological island in the top of the mountains. It's like above 6,000 feet high in the mountain with a complete different temperature. It's a pine and oak forest in the top, which makes it amazing view. If you go straight to the top and then you see to both sides, you can see the ocean. But also makes it, of course, a great area to explore. The other picture, the picture on the left side that has these flattened mountains, is part of the Sierra de la Giganta area. The Sierra de la Giganta is very close to the lagoons that we go to visit the gray whales. And one of the main characteristics of all these sierras is that they conserve a lot of the local traditional way of living. So this is the ranchero life. which is very interesting. So we have on one side in the peninsula, we have all this shore of ocean, and we have the fisherman way of living. But up in the mountains and big in the desert, in the land, we have the ranchero way of living. So it's like two opposite worlds that both of them have been leading to tourism and conservation. Okay, let me forward this page. So protecting our land. So this is something a lot of people is very proud of. Being a ranchero and now a park ranger, you know? So a lot of the park rangers now were rancheros or still are rancheros in their own lands in a lot of the natural protected areas that we have here in the peninsula, in the mountains. So in one of the pictures that you're watching on the right corner, it's a group of local people that live high up in the mountain, that they own lands, and they've been receiving classes and advice of how to manage tourism instead of exploiting the resources in the mountain. Since some of their lands have been turned into natural protected areas, they cannot use like wood or yeah, just to sell as for fire, you know, like yeah, like wood, or they cannot have like free range cattle as they used to have before. They have to control the cattle from free foraging in the mountain. So now they are becoming with, because government in Mexico, sometimes we don't have as many resources for park rangers. Sometimes there's a lot of land to be protected, but what best if it's the own landowners, you know? So this gives the community an income, and they've been turning their perspective on watching their lands and seeing them like recover from, you know, deforestation or like land erosion, and now they're also enjoying the pleasure of sharing what they see every day on their lands, like birds. So some of the projects are involved with bird watching. What we see here in this picture, I actually used it in my last presentation of bird watching, because we have some friends participating here that are other expedition leaders from NatHab. Sophia, Eric are in the middle picture, and they are participating with the people from the local university in having new guides prepared on learning about bird watching and hiking without I mean, how you say, like without destroying the environment. I mean, like, you know, like responsibly respecting the land. So, and in the other picture, we have a little girl which is also being introduced to conservation through bird watching. So this is an activity and that everybody can do, and also it's very important because conservation is now going to our youngest. And if we start, you know, this is the chance to make the differences, to go to the younger people, our children, and conservation is making them first know what they were ignoring about, or what we've been ignoring, maybe because of lack of education or preparation, or maybe we didn't know that we're being so responsible. Sometimes it's not only our fault. I mean, sometimes that's the way things used to be, you know. But now with children, we can change all that, and they are very open to all these new ways of living and conserving areas, and we are saving that to leave them a better place, and they are actually enjoying it. And if you have grandchildren or children, they are very thankful of that. So Just an example, this is some of the endemic birds that we have in Baja. So it's the great thrasher, sorry. One of the very beautiful hummingbirds that you can see in the mountain or places that are related to water bodies like lagoons, mangroves, rivers, or also oases. Buildings, yellowthroat, it's very, very, very hard to see, but you can find them in ponds near estuaries in the coast. The pine-tailed pigeon, it's an endemic subspecies from the Sierra de la Laguna. It's beautiful. And yellow-footed gull, by example, it looks like a normal gull, but it's from the Sea of Cortez only. Oh, I wanna forward, yeah. So that was one example of conservation that we have in Baja. On the other hand, let's talk about gray whales, which actually I love, and I've been working with like for the last 8 years. Let's talk about Pachico. So this guy that you see in the picture, it's very important for us. So quick resume. The lagoons on the Pacific side are very rich areas for fisheries. So all the fishermen, most of the people that live in around these lagoons are dedicated to fisheries. Scallops, oysters, different times of the year, they get different things. But there was a thing happening with these fishermen in the past. Oh, well, yeah, they will set their nets all along the lagoon, but guess what happens in the winter? Gray whales started coming. And the thing is that a lot of the fishermen didn't like the gray whales to come in the lagoons because they were setting their nets and the gray whales will just like ruin them or just turn them apart, or like just or a lot of the whales will just tangle in them. So it was a very big fight in between whales and fishermen, and of course, and even worse, in other centuries, whalers. Whalers will visit these lagoons and waiting for all those whales to come to the lagoons to give birth and reproduce and mate. So it was a big problem for whales and for some of the fishermen. The only people that was happy was the whalers, of course, right? But when this was canceled, they had to leave. But the thing is that, but why was Paquito so important? Because fishermen before, and this is not something new, sailors from all time were saying that whales were like sea monsters. If you've seen a whale before, even just in a video, it's like you don't see the whole thing, you know? Imagine you're just a sailor, like back in the centuries, like when they were just exploring the ocean, like Vikings or any other explorators in the middle of the ocean. Imagine that you are just navigating and suddenly from nowhere, you see like a huge thing that it's coming out of the water, but you don't see its face, its head, or its face or anything. You just see like something that's coming up and down like a curve, and then another one. So, and then another one like a half of a Cheerio, you know? So imagine you see a lot of those. Of course, it will think that they were like huge snakes in the water or like huge sea monsters. You couldn't see any of that. Or of this face or anything that will give you a clue what was that. So they have been like having a bad image from the last centuries. But well, when in this back to the present, Pachico was a fisherman that realized that these whales were not as bad actually. He was just fishing one day and one of these whales approached to him and he was curious about it. Probably he was a little afraid at the beginning, But these whales have a very curious behavior. And it's very interesting because they behave like that mostly only in Mexico lagoons when they are on mating season. Maybe there's the hormones, maybe it's just they're too friendly, maybe they're happy because they're in warmer waters. We don't know. Maybe they're just happy because it's Mexico and they're on vacation. I don't know. That explains a lot. But Pachico was very afraid at the beginning, but then it gave the opportunity to the whale to approach, and he was very relaxed, and he dared to touch the whale. So he's the first people registered that we know that touch actually a whale. And then he became friends with the whales. And then he started saying like, okay, maybe they're not as bad. And why don't we start like better taking care of them? And why don't we stop all the fisheries just when they are here? And maybe we can take some friends to look at them. And maybe if we charge a little bit, or we can start making tourism out of this, because there's a lot of these people coming to Baja to explore, because there was a big wave of people coming down to Baja during the 70s, the 80s, just because it was known as a very remote land to explore. So Pachico said like, maybe I can sell some tours to these explorers, and a lot of people coming from the US, from Canada, people coming on their RVs, or just camping all through the shore, explorers, adventurers. And Pachico decided to start to changing this mindset of his fellows fishermen. And well, all that led to what we have now in the lagoons. A lot of great gray whale watching, that it's beautiful, and it's now being famous all around the world, because we know that this is way much better. And because this is not something that we just discovered, this is something that Pachico discovered, and this is something that he shared with all his community, is that whales are way much valuable alive, to share, that just hunting them and just trying to scare them away to get more fish. They decided that, well, let's just stop fishing when they come, and then the rest of the year we can keep fishing. But during the season when they are here, let's leave them alone a little bit. We won't fish. We'll respect the area. We will also make it more sustainable for us, so that fish have a time off a little bit in those areas, and they can reproduce also, and get rid of fisheries when the whales are around, enjoy the whales, enjoy the presence of visitors, have a very big, good income for their communities, and then they can go back to fish. And that's Pachico's idea, and Pachico's family's idea, and Pachico's friends' idea, and then it was extending to the whole community. So this is amazing. And the other picture, it's a Kujima camp. That's where we go on our Nat Hub experience in San Ignacio Lagoon with the gray whales. So those cabins is where we stay, when we go over there. But also there's activities like, you can just get a bike and go around and explore. So this is ecotourism. Why? Because it's sustainable. This is not a resort that it's invading the land. As you can see, it's just cabins built just very respectfully on the sand as it was. As you can see in the back, behind the kid, you can see the local flora, the few bushes that grow around there are delimited by some shells that tells you don't step on these bushes, because they are the home of other little tiny desertic creatures. And also, everybody can do it. These bikes are not producing any pollution. We don't use as many cars. Everything goes solar, because it's so remote that we have solar panels, because there's no electricity or anything like that. So it accomplishes the goals of, and of course, it's a very good income and a fair income to the community. Because if there was a company that coming just from another country and will just use the reserves and take all the money back to his country, that will not be fair, of course, for the community. But all these camps that are set on the lagoons hire like local people. Oh, next one. Yeah, so you will see there's a captain that is a local captain. Only local captains can work in these areas. Only local people with their own boats can take tourists out. They are the only people that can get the permits to do it. So that's a very, very fair trade. And yeah, for fishermen, so they can share with us this beautiful frontier they have. And also they make a resource out of it without just letting someone else take, the slice of the cake. And now companies are hiring naturalists like me and Sophie, my co-leader guide, and Andrea, which is an also biologist that works with us. So these companies are now hiring also conservationists, professionals that are coming, helping with all the information. They help us with all their experience in the ocean, and it's a win-win for everyone, because I'm also part of the community. I'm also living in Mexico. I'm also a person which is very proud of the resources that we have to share with the world. And also my kids have to go to school and everything. And we are very happy that instead of just seeing these whales being killed and taken somewhere else to make cosmetics or whatever they used to go to do with them, now we can just see them, make friends with the whales, and enjoy the view, enjoy the ride, make new friends with the community, and leave them alone to go back home and see them until next year. And we are all happy, and we have a good income to live the rest of the year or do something else in the summer, I mean. But it's a win-win for everyone. And let me show you. So let's just make a difference, in these pictures I have a whole team of Kujima people in the picture down in blue. So there's Maggie, which works with us in Kujima. I can see some of the girls in the kitchen, some of the captains. So there's a lot of the people of the community that it's in that picture. Like Maggie, by example, which is has like red hair and is in the middle of the picture. She's from one of the towns the fisherman towns that are close to the lagoon, from like an hour, but it's a very, very, very remote community in the middle of the desert. There's one of the other girls in the kitchen um, that maybe you will meet if you go visit us. She's from a very far community that you can only arrive through a boat, going through the waves in the Pacific and then going back in the land. So there is not even a road that could lead you to this community. So imagine how important is the tourism income for these communities. What if they don't have anything to fish? What if there's a bad season with bad weather? They can do fishing the whole rest of the year, but during the winter, they can also change a little bit of what they do. They can also meet new people. We can make new friends, and they can learn also a lot of conserving all these areas. And in the other picture, there's another very popular activity that's been happening on our shores. It's baby turtle release into the ocean. So this started as volunteers patrolling the beach with researchers in the nights in Cabo area, in Todos Santos, in Cabo Pulmo, in La Paz. But this was also maybe at the beginning it started just like as a researching project, but local people started helping, and now more and more people, even people in Cabo, in the huge hotels. This is happening in one beach. This picture is from one of the big resorts in Cabo. Now they are also the people in the big resorts, like surveillance guards in the night, everyone. They are now being trained to know who authorities to call if they see a turtle nesting. They will delimit the nest or take the eggs to enclosed area where it's being marked and protected, depending on how long they take to find the eggs. There's a point when you should not move them anymore, and so they live there. But then they can count how many days the baby turtles will take to come out to the sand, and people will gather to help them go safely to the shore. And this is a whole event for the community, for kids, for visitors, for the people working in the hotel. So it brings this heartwarming feeling that everybody is participating actively on making a difference. It's not something only for making money. It's something to make a better place where we live and making feel people happy about they're doing something good. And maybe this is too romantic, but actually changes your day, changes the way you're feeling, changes the way you relate to your family on a on a trip, gives a good example to your kids or to my kids when I visit these communities or these places with magical experiences like this, that my children or your family or your partner would never forget. Animals and nature gives us some of the most um, revealing and eye-opening experiences that I've ever lived. And this is as important and valuable as when you go to a huge concert from your favorite band, just seeing that you're making a difference, that you can touch a whale, or the whale just came to you to show you its baby, or just look at these birds making beautiful patterns in the sky when they're flying, or just reach the top of the mountain and learn to make tortillas or like handmade cheese with the rancheros traditional way of living. All this changes your mindset and makes you wish like, oh, maybe we don't need more buildings. Maybe we do have to change to solar. Maybe next time, if I see like a plastic bag just in the street, I will just pick it up, because I don't want any of these baby turtles that were released by my nephew in the ocean gets killed by one of these. So it's tiny, tiny, tiny differences that started as exploring, then where tourism, it started as an income, and then we're making a difference. And one of the last things that I want to share is like the importance of being there is that it's like we cannot be forced to love someone that we don't know. Like it's hard to love that very, very far living relative that maybe your mom talks about, your like very far uncle that lives in Europe or in Ireland. So it's the same. If we've been just told to take care of the planet, but we haven't had these experiences, how are we going to love something that we haven't seen? And how are we going to take care of something that we don't love? It's like when we connect with these experiences is when we tell our children, well, maybe you like this. Well, it's on your hands to take care of it. You know, you can make a difference. And I think we still have like 15 minutes to, if you want to ask something or you have any comments. Maybe I was a little fast or I talk a little too fast. I hope you enjoy the webinar, and I hope that you can see us and visit us in the lagoon and the gray whales in San Ignacio, or if you come to explore Baja, you will never regret it. Thank you very much.
Danny, thank you so much. That was a fabulous presentation, and I so appreciate you not only connecting with our minds by offering such amazing knowledge, but by really showing us that this is a passion for you as well. It's not just something you do here and there in the season, that this is a way of life for you and for the people in the community. And I think that's a really important point. So thank you for sharing that. Before we start the Q&A, I want to remind everyone that they can submit questions via the questions field in the control panel. We have a few to start with. Can you tell us how many different whale species you find in Baja, and do the whale species befriend each other? Have you ever seen interactions between different species of whale?
Oh, that's a very good question. Well, I can remember maybe like 8 different types of whale now. So it's blue whale, fin whale, bright whale, minke whale, beaked whales, several types of beaked whales, killer whales or orcas, sperm whales, of course, gray whales, humpback whales, whales. So at least like 11 different types of whales are around, and a lot of different kinds of dolphins. I haven't seen interacting 2 different types of whales. I know sometimes it happens. I've seen gray whales swimming next to humpbacks, passing through Todos Santos on their way back to the north when they are just leaving. Maybe for protection, they just, because on their way back they have to go through a lot of dangers, in this case killer whales on their way. But I've seen baby gray whales playing with dolphins very early in the morning. Gray whales, the babies, when everything is very calm and after they just finished nursing, they're super happy and playful. And I think the dolphins know this, or maybe they just saw this very happy baby of a calf. It's a calf, but I like to call them babies. But yes, dolphins and baby whales, yes.
Interesting. Can you talk a little bit about barnacles? Are they healthy for whales? How many barnacles would be healthy? Are they a bother to the whales? How much can you share with us about barnacles?
Well, barnacles are very interesting. So they don't properly damage the whale. So there's different symbiotic relationships. Some other relationships are mutualism, that they both receive a benefit, or parasitic, when only one gets a benefit and the other one is being hurt. But in this case, barnacles don't hurt, which is very interesting, is that barnacles are very specific to an species of whale. So gray whales will have its own species that has evolved with gray whales. With gray whales, humpbacks will have a different type of barnacle. Turtles have a different type of barnacle. So it's a co-evolution that's been happening together, but they just only are on top of the whales and they don't damage them very much. And when whales are healthy, you don't see them invading so much, because they can also scratch to some of the rocks. You can see them sometimes, the gray whales, they scratch to the bottom of the ocean when they are feeding. So some of them, when the whale is healthy, they will just fall apart, but they are not actually really bothering the whale.
In your opinion and experience, what's the best time to see most whales?
Ooh, this is a tricky question, because if we are talking about gray whales, they start arriving in January, when it's a very good time. they start arriving earlier in North lagoons, where like Guerrero Negro and San Ignacio, and of course those lagoons are the last to be emptied and the last part of March. But February is the best part, and the last part of February, calves are a little older. So when they're very young, sometimes they're a little shy, but you never know. But last part of February, they actually are more relaxed. But I will say February. February, I like it very much to enjoy whales. But you never know. I mean,
Sounds good.
yeah.
What species of sea turtles nest in Baja?
Oh, that's great. Almost all of them. Depending on the area you are, I mean, we have green turtles, hawksbill turtles, olive ridley's turtles, yellow turtle, a big leather, back leather turtle, and it's like 8 species in the world. In Mexico, we have 7. One, it's just on the Gulf of Mexico, which is not in Baja, and the other one's in Australia. So basically, the rest of them are around here.
Mm.
And depending
Are
on
there?
which part, sorry, it depends on which part of the peninsula you are. If you are on the side of the Pacific or inside or in the middle of the peninsula, sometimes they like different places.
Well, connected to that answer, do the different whales like the Gulf side versus the ocean side of the
Okay.
peninsula?
Yeah, so in the Pacific side, we see more like the migrating whales, like are the gray whales that come to the estuaries to give birth, and the lagoons, and the humpbacks that come from Alaska, from Canada, to tropical waters in the Pacific side. But the thing is, in the other side, we have permanent resident whales, like sperm whales, live in the middle of the Gulf of Cortez, because there's very, very deep areas in the Gulf of California where they can find their favorite food, which are like giant squids. So yeah, so that makes a little bit different. And also like blue whales, they just love visiting Loreto to give birth. So because it's deeper in there, there's like big canyons.
Wow, fascinating. Well, thank you again for sharing your knowledge and passion with us, Danny. I'm going to hand it back to you for closing comments.
Okay, well, thank you for everyone for listening. Sorry, my camera was not working. I don't know if it's working now. I just can't see me. But thank you very much for paying a lot of attention. Thank you for connecting. And I hope to see you soon. And if I already know you, I send you a lot of hello because yeah, I really enjoyed this and I hope you enjoyed it.
We certainly did. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Please join us again next week for our next Daily Dose of Nature. You can check out next week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I'll conclude the webinar. Have a wonderful week, everyone.
Bye.